The starships appeared on a quiet Sunday morning, their massive forms eclipsing the sun over every major city on Earth. No warning, no diplomatic overtures, just the sudden presence of technological might beyond humanity's known capabilities. Or so the Xeraxian Empire believed. In New York, Tokyo, London, and countless other cities, civilians stared skyward at the colossal vessels that loomed like metallic clouds. Their hulls gleamed with an otherworldly purple-silver sheen, designs that spoke of engineering centuries beyond Earth's public space program. Traffic ground to a halt. Phones came out to record the moment. Military bases worldwide went to high alert. Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Xeraxian Empire stood on his flagship's bridge, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the primitive world below. His gray-scaled skin reflected the soft blue glow of holographic displays, showing Earth's major population centers. Such a backward species, he mused, mandibles clicking in amusement. Still burning fossil fuels, barely touched their own moon. "My lord," his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krell, reported. "Our scans show minimal orbital defenses. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear devices with primitive delivery systems. Shall we begin the standard subjugation protocol?" Vexthor raised a clawed hand. "No. Let's give them hope first. It makes the breaking sweeter." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "Begin the announcement." Across Earth, the sky itself seemed to ripple as massive holographic projections materialized. Vexthor's imposing figure appeared above every city, his voice translated simultaneously into every human language. "People of Earth," he began, his tone carrying the practiced patience of one who had delivered this speech to 1,000 worlds. "Your planet has been chosen to join the Xeraxian Empire. This is an honor we have bestowed upon countless civilizations. Your technology is primitive, your societies fragmented. Under our guidance, you will know true advancement." In the depths of No-Ray's Cheyenne Mountain complex, General Sarah Chen watched the transmission with an expression that might have surprised the alien commander. She wasn't afraid. She was smiling. "Get me the Security Council," she ordered, her voice steady. "Authorization code. Sleeping Giant." Vexthor continued his speech, unaware of the activity happening beneath Earth's surface. "You have 30 standard days to surrender your military forces, accept imperial governance, and begin integration into our economic system. Resistance is." He paused as one of his bridge officers interrupted with urgent clicking sounds. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting energy signatures, impossible energy signatures. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility unknown to 99.9% of humanity, Dr. James Rodriguez activated systems that had waited decades for this moment. Initiating Protocol Thunderbird, he announced to his team. Power up the gravity wells." In the Himalayan mountains, behind holographic shields that had masked them for years, massive hangar doors began to open. In the Australian outback, what appeared to be ordinary mining operations suddenly revealed their true nature. And in orbit around Jupiter, a fleet of ships that had never appeared on any public record powered up their engines. "Supreme Commander," Krell's voice had lost its confidence. "Multiple launches detected from Earth's surface. These readings, they're not primitive technology." Vexthor's speech faltered as new information flooded his displays. Hidden bases were appearing across the planet's surface, revealing technology that shouldn't have existed. Energy signatures that matched or exceeded Xeraxian standards were lighting up his sensors. In Washington, D.C., the President of the United States stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by leaders from around the world on secure quantum channels that the Xeraxians couldn't detect. "They gave us 30 days to surrender," she said, her voice firm. "I suggest we give them our answer now." General Chen's voice came through the secure channel. "Operation Sleeping Giant is ready, Madam President. All hidden facilities are operational. The Jupiter fleet is in position." The President looked at the assembled faces of Earth's leadership, each one showing the same resolve. This moment had been prepared for since the first alien ship had been discovered crashed in the Gobi Desert 50 years ago. Humanity had learned, adapted, and prepared in secret. Supreme Commander, Krell's voice was almost a whisper now. The energy readings, they're everywhere. Hidden bases, orbital platforms, ships emerging from gas giant shadows. This isn't a primitive species. They were waiting for us. General Chen's voice came through the secure channel. Operation Sleeping Giant is ready, Madam President. All hidden facilities are operational. The Jupiter fleet is in position. The President looked at the assembled faces of Earth's leadership, each one showing the same resolve. This moment had been prepared for since the first alien ship had been discovered crashed in the Gobi Desert 50 years ago. Humanity had learned, adapted, and prepared in secret. Supreme Commander, Krell's voice was almost a whisper now. The energy readings, they're everywhere. Hidden bases, orbital platforms, ships emerging from gas giant shadows. This isn't a primitive species. They were waiting for us. Vexthor watched in growing horror as his tactical displays revealed the truth. The supposedly primitive humans had masked their true capabilities behind a carefully constructed facade. His invasion fleet, positioned for optimal intimidation rather than defense, was now surrounded. The next 60 minutes became the longest hour in human history. As Vexthor's invasion fleet hung motionless in Earth's orbit, humanity's hidden forces moved into position with practiced precision. Decades of preparation were about to be put to the test. Admiral Maya Santos stood on the bridge of the EDF Hyperion, Earth's most advanced warship, concealed in the shadow of Luna. The vessel, like the rest of humanity's true fleet, represented the perfect fusion of reverse-engineered alien technology and human innovation. Its hull was covered in metamaterials that bent light and sensor readings around it, a technology that the Ziraxians had never mastered. Status report, she commanded, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the Ziraxian fleet's position. All ships report ready, Admiral. Her XO, Commander David Chen, responded. The Artemis battle group is in position behind Mars. Zia's squadron is maintaining station in the asteroid belt. Operation Shadow Strike can commence on your order. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The Ziraxians had positioned their fleet for intimidation, not combat. Their ships formed a perfect sphere around Earth, designed to project power and prevent escape. It was a formation that would have terrified a truly primitive species. Instead, they had surrounded themselves. Open encrypted channel to all Earth Defense Force units, Maya ordered. Authentication code, Thermopylae. As the channel opened, she addressed the fleet. All units, this is Admiral Santos. The enemy came expecting to find sheep. Show them they found wolves instead. Execute Operation Shadow Strike. Phase 1. Commence. The first blow came from where the Ziraxians least expected it. Apparently empty space. Dozens of automated defense platforms, hidden in plain sight disguised as communication satellites and space debris, suddenly activated. Their weapons were simple by alien standards, electromagnetic pulse generators designed to overwhelm shield systems. EMP platforms firing in 3, 2, 1. Commander Chen counted down. The space around the Ziraxian fleet lit up as pulses of electromagnetic energy washed over their ships. Shields flickered and failed, their advanced systems overwhelmed by the primitive but effective attack. Phase 2. Execute. Maya commanded. From behind Luna, the Hyperion led its battle group into action. But instead of engaging with energy weapons as the Ziraxians expected, they launched swarms of kinetic penetrators, smart bullets guided by basic AI. Too small to trigger capital ship defense systems, but moving at relativistic speeds. Vexthor's flagship rocked as thousands of tiny impacts peppered its hull. Impossible, he roared as damage reports flooded in. Their weapons are primitive. They shouldn't be able to. Multiple new contacts. His sensor officer interrupted, emerging from the asteroid belt. Zia's squadron revealed itself, led by Colonel Sarah Wu. Her ships were smaller, faster, and carried a weapon that existed because humans had spent centuries thinking about space warfare and fiction, gravitational disruptors. The technology, reverse-engineered from the crashed alien ship, created localized distortions in spacetime. Target their formation gaps, Wu ordered. Let's break their pretty sphere. The disruptors fired, creating patches of warped space throughout the Ziraxian formation. Ships that tried to maintain their positions found themselves fighting against artificial gravity wells, their formations breaking apart as they were pulled in multiple directions. From Mars orbit, the Artemis battle group joined the attack. Led by Captain Viktor Petrov, their ships carried weapons based on a thoroughly human principle, electromagnetic railguns, while the Ziraxians had focused on energy weapons and shields designed to stop them. They had never considered the devastating impact of tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed. The President's voice echoed through space once again. To Supreme Commander Vexthor, your fleet is surrounded, your formations broken. We can continue this demonstration, or you can accept our terms. The choice is yours. But know this, humanity will never surrender to threats. We have spent our entire history preparing for this moment, and we will not be found wanting. As damage reports continued to flood in, Vexthor faced a horrifying realization. They hadn't found a primitive species ready for conquest. They had walked into a trap generations in the making, sprung by a species that had turned paranoia into preparation and secrecy into strength. The Ziraxian Empire had never faced an enemy quite like humanity. As their initial formation lay in ruins, Supreme Commander Vexthor did what his military doctrine demanded. He called for reinforcements. But the humans had anticipated this too. Deep within the asteroid belt, Dr. Elena Volkov sat in her command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing quantum communication patterns. Her team had spent years studying the alien quantum networks retrieved from the crashed ship in the Gobi Desert. Now that knowledge would prove decisive. They're attempting to send a distress signal, Elena reported to Earth Command. Initiating Operation Babel. Across the solar system, hidden quantum interference arrays activated. The technology was crude by Ziraxian standards. Humanity hadn't fully mastered quantum communications, but they didn't need to. They just needed to create enough interference to disrupt it. Vexthor's communications officer clicked in frustration. Supreme Commander, our quantum channels are being flooded with noise. I can't establish a clear signal to Imperial Command. On the bridge of the EDF Hyperion, Admiral Santos received the update with satisfaction. Phase 4 of Shadow Strike is in effect. Begin adaptive response protocols. What happened next demonstrated why studying human military history had been mandatory at the Earth Defense Force Academy. The human fleet split into smaller autonomous units, each executing tactics drawn from centuries of warfare. Captain Maria Gonzalez led the Normandy squadron in what she called the submarine warfare approach. Her ships used the solar system's natural gravity wells to mask their movements, appearing from behind moons and asteroids to strike before disappearing again. It was a tactic perfected by submarine commanders during Earth's world wars, adapted for space warfare. Like U-boats in the Atlantic, she told her crew as they prepared another attack run. Except we have a whole solar system to hide in. Meanwhile, Colonel Wu's Zeus squadron employed what they called the Mongol horse-archer strategy. Their smaller, faster ships would approach at high speed, launch devastating attacks with their gravity weapons, then retreat before the Ziraxians could effectively return fire. It was hit-and-run warfare on a cosmic scale. The Ziraxians attempted to adapt, but centuries of fighting technologically inferior opponents had left them rigid and predictable. When they formed defensive clusters, human ships would target the clusters with electromagnetic pulse weapons. When they spread out to minimize EMP damage, they made themselves vulnerable to concentrated kinetic strikes. They're falling into the pattern, Commander Chen observed as he watched the tactical display, just like the simulations predicted. Admiral Santos nodded. The Earth Defense Force had run thousands of combat simulations, using every battle in human history as inspiration. They had learned that superior technology often bred military inflexibility. The Ziraxians had forgotten the fundamental lessons that humanity had paid for in blood over millennia. "Begin Phase 5, she ordered. "Let's show them why humans wrote the book on adaptive warfare." The next stage of the battle demonstrated another uniquely human approach. Instead of trying to match the Ziraxians' advanced energy weapons, Earth's ships deployed clouds of smart dust. Billions of microscopic robots that would attach to enemy ships and gradually disable their systems. "Like the death of 1,000 cuts," Captain Yuki Tanaka said as she watched her ship's smart dust clouds envelop a Ziraxian cruiser. "They're looking for torpedo strikes while we're giving them a virus." In the asteroid belt, another human innovation was proving its worth. Teams of space miners, their true identities as military personnel hidden for years, began activating mass drivers, enormous electromagnetic railguns built into asteroids themselves. These weapons didn't need to be accurate. They just needed to force the Ziraxians to constantly adjust their positions, disrupting their ability to mount an organized response. "The asteroids send their regards," Colonel Jack O'Neill transmitted as another volley of space rocks forced a Ziraxian battle group to break formation. Courtesy of the Belt Miners Union, Local 447. Vex Thor watched in mounting horror as his fleet's tactical advantage evaporated. His ships had better technology, more powerful weapons, and stronger shields, but none of that mattered against an enemy that refused to fight according to conventional rules of space warfare. "My lord," Krull reported, his voice shaking. "Third Battle Group reports they're being swarmed by some kind of microscopic machines. Fourth Group is trapped in a gravity well near their moon. Fifth Group can't maintain formation due to debris attacks from the asteroid belt." The Supreme Commander had never felt so helpless. His entire military career had been based on the assumption that technological superiority guaranteed victory. Now he watched as a supposedly primitive species systematically dismantled his fleet using weapons and tactics that no civilized race would consider. On Earth, in the Strategic Command Center, the President received regular updates on the battle's progress. "They're adapting well to our historical warfare models," General Chen reported. "The Ziraxians have no counter to strategies they've never encountered before." "Of course not," the President replied. "They'd spent centuries fighting enemies who tried to match their technology. We're fighting them with every lesson learned from thousands of years of human conflict. Send word to Admiral Santos. Execute the final phase of Operation Shadow Strike." As the order was relayed, Maya Santos allowed herself a grim smile. The Ziraxians were about to learn the most important lesson about human warfare: never corner a species that had turned fighting against superior forces into an art form. With the main Ziraxian fleet in disarray, humanity moved to the next phase of their defense strategy. Admiral Santos knew from Earth's military history that armies didn't just die in battle. They died when their supply lines failed. "Begin Operation Anaconda," she ordered, naming the strategy after the American Civil War plan that had strangled the Confederacy's resources. "All hunter-killer groups, you are free to engage." Hidden throughout the Kuiper Belt, specialized human ships had been waiting for this moment. These vessels, designated as Corsairs, were smaller than standard warships but packed with electronic warfare systems and stealth technology. Their commanders had studied the ancient privateer raids of Earth's ocean-going age, adapting those tactics for space warfare. Captain Raj Patel led the first Corsair strike from his ship, the EDF Blackbeard. "Remember," he transmitted to his squadron, "we're not looking for stray fights. Hit their supply lines, disable their support vessels, and vanish before they can respond." The Ziraxian Empire, like all vast military organizations, depended on a complex network of supply ships, repair vessels, and logistics craft. These support ships, designed for efficiency rather than combat, now became prime targets for humanity's asymmetric warfare. Deep in the void between Mars and Jupiter, a Ziraxian supply convoy moved through what they thought was empty space. Their sensors, calibrated to detect standard engine signatures, failed to notice the human ships coasting on minimal power, using the solar wind itself for propulsion. Like the old sailing ships hiding in the trade winds, Captain Patel murmured as his squadron drifted into attack position. Fire pattern Delta, disable their drives first. The Corsairs struck with surgical precision. Instead of trying to destroy the massive supply ships, they targeted vulnerable systems, propulsion, navigation, and communication arrays. Within minutes, the convoy was dead in space, their cargo of fuel, ammunition, and spare parts now useless to the Ziraxian fleet. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Dr. Elena Volkov's team implemented the next stage of their electronic warfare campaign. They had discovered that the Ziraxian quantum communication network, while incredibly advanced, had a peculiar vulnerability. It couldn't handle conflicting quantum states. Begin broadcast of Protocol Ghost Echo, Elena commanded. Her arrays began transmitting quantum signals designed not to communicate, but to create confusion. Each signal contained multiple contradictory states, forcing the Ziraxian network to constantly attempt to resolve the paradoxes. On Vexthor's flagship, the effects were devastating. "My lord," his communications officer reported, mandibles clicking in distress, "the quantum network is collapsing. Our ships can't coordinate their actions." Humanity's response to the invasion had been calculated, methodical, and devastating. They hadn't just defeated the Ziraxian fleet. They had systematically dismantled it, piece by piece, using strategies refined through thousands of years of warfare on Earth. The President of the United States stood in the Strategic Command Center, watching the final moves of this cosmic chess game unfold. "Send the message," she commanded. "Let's end this." Admiral Santos's voice echoed through space, transmitted on all frequencies in perfect Ziraxian language. "Supreme Commander Vexthor, your fleet is defeated. Your supply lines are cut. Your communications are compromised. You have two options: surrender or be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide." In the asteroid belt, Dr. Elena Volkov's quantum interference arrays continued their work, ensuring that no distress calls would reach the broader Ziraxian Empire. Captain Raj Patel's Corsairs maintained their blockade of the remaining supply ships, while Colonel Wu Xiu's squadron kept their gravity weapons trained on any Ziraxian vessel that showed signs of resistance. Vexthor, supreme commander of the mightiest fleet in known space, faced the first true defeat of his career. "How?" he whispered, more to himself than to his bridge crew. "How did primitives defeat us so completely?" The answer came from an unexpected source: his ship's artificial intelligence, which had been analyzing the battle data. "Analysis complete," it announced. "Human victory attributed to multiple factors: unprecedented technological deception, superior tactical adaptation, and strategic innovation. Conclusion: we did not face a primitive species. We faced a species that had turned preparation into an art form." The AI continued its analysis. "Historical data suggests humans have spent their entire existence preparing for threats. They developed multiple contradictory technologies in secret, maintained a false appearance of technological inferiority, and created defensive strategies based on thousands of years of warfare experience. As the 5-minute deadline approached, humanity's fleet moved into its final formation. Every disabled Ziraxian ship was targeted, every escape route was blocked, and every strategic position was covered. It was, as ancient human military strategists would have recognized, a perfect encirclement. Vexthor looked at his tactical display one last time. His mighty fleet, pride of the Ziraxian Empire, had been reduced to scattered groups of helpless vessels. Their advanced technology, rendered useless by human ingenuity. Their perfect coordination, shattered by primitive but effective electronic warfare. "Open a channel," he commanded, his voice heavy with resignation. To Admiral Santos. The human admiral's image appeared on his screen, her expression calm but alert. "Your decision, Supreme Commander." "We." Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what humans would later learn was the Ziraxian expression of profound respect. "We surrender." The Xeraxian Empire acknowledges humanity's right to independence and sovereignty over this solar system. The President's voice joined the transmission. We accept your surrender, Supreme Commander. But understand this, humanity will not remain isolated in this solar system. We have proven ourselves capable of defending our home. Now we will take our place among the stars. In the days that followed, as the defeated Xeraxian ships were escorted from the solar system, humanity revealed more of their hidden capabilities. The facade of a primitive civilization fell away, showing a species that had used paranoia as motivation and secrecy as a shield. Earth's cities revealed their true faces, advanced metropolitan centers that had been carefully disguised. Hidden shipyards emerged from the shadows of gas giants. Research facilities that had been masked as mundane installations showed their true purposes. Admiral Santos stood in the observation deck of the Hyperion, watching the last Xeraxian ships depart. Commander Chen joined her, carrying a data pad with preliminary reports from the battle. The cost was high, he said, scrolling through the casualties and damage assessments. But we proved something today, not just to the Xeraxians, but to ourselves. Maya nodded. We proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to learn, to adapt, and to prepare for any threat. As news of the victory spread across Earth, humanity began its emergence as a galactic power. But they carried forward the lessons learned from this first contact. Maintain vigilance, never reveal all your capabilities, and always be prepared for the unexpected. In the decades that followed, the story of how humanity defeated the Xeraxian Empire became legend across the galaxy. It was a reminder that true strength lies not in superior technology or overwhelming force, but in the wisdom to use whatever advantages you have, the creativity to find solutions where none seem to exist, and the determination to defend what's yours, no matter the odds. The stars had witnessed the birth of a new power, not just a technologically advanced civilization, but a species that had turned survival into an art form, preparation into a science, and victory into an inevitability.